I think I'll get rolling here. I'm Craig McAtee. I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers. We are a longtime affiliated council of the American Association of Community Colleges, who is presenting today for the second day in a row on their great work on expanding community college apprenticeships for the last almost 4 years now. And I'll introduce those wonderful people in a minute. But first, I want to just give everybody, in case you don't know who NCATC is, a little quick background for 2 minutes. Our 4 pillars are here on the screen. They're really basically the future of work. We've been that way, future work focused for the last 34 years. And this day and today, 10 years back, we've been focused on Industry 4.0, smart automation, smart manufacturing, all those very high-tech careers in manufacturing and other fields. We also have a second pillar that's perfect match for what we're doing with AACC around apprenticeships, and that's work-based learning. Everything from the registered apprenticeships, which you'll hear about more today, to internships, co-ops, and even entrepreneurship. Huge focus on our members across the nation. And if it's coupled with competency-based education, applied skills, learning and training, and meshed with industry recognized credentials, a lot of communities, employers welcome that even more. So that's a real big part of the third pillar. And the fourth pillar really wraps around these other 3, and it's all about adult basic education, serving those underserved and underrepresented populations in all fields, with diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness lens on everything we do. Of the 1,150 community colleges in the nation, we represent about 170 in about 33 states. They're represented on this map with the dots, but we also have 48 corporate strategic partners. Now, these are the employers that a lot of your apprentices may work for, or their tier 1, 2, or 3 supplier base. But they're also helping us with our community colleges across the nation learn hands-on experiential learning, whether it's welding with Miller and Lincoln Electric, or mechatronics with Festo or Siemens. They're all at the table with us on a daily basis. And those folks, probably a lot of those, are in your labs at your community colleges. Last but certainly not least, we work very closely with the Manufacturing USA Institutes. These were stood up over the last 10 years by funding from the Department of Defense, Commerce, and Labor, and they are really focused on emerging trends in technology for manufacturing, starting with 3D additive manufacturing in Ohio, robotics in PA, flexible electronics on the West Coast, composites down in Tennessee, etc. So we work with 8 of those 19, focused on all of those emerging trends in technology, sharing back and forth with the workforce needs from the community colleges and from industry. All right. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to and welcome Jen Worth. I think she's on with us. I'm not sure if she's on camera.
Could you unmute her? Craig, could you unmute her?
Oh, I will unmute her. Didn't know I had that kind of control.
And if you can show her a picture, that'd be great too. But otherwise, she'll just talk. That's fine.
No, we want to see.
I'm in. No, thank you so much. I was having trouble.
Right. Welcome, Jen Worth.
It's so wonderful to hear and see all of you, not visually see you, but just to know you're on the line. AACC is honored to have multiple affiliate councils, but I've been over the last 15 plus years working with Craig, and I really think you guys are in the sweet spot for a lot of the future positioning of talent development across the whole country. The reality is, I say this all the time, you are the sharp end of the spear when it comes to Industry 4.0, and you're well positioned to go after all of these new funds that are coming through from the federal government, from the state areas, foundations and such. So when it makes sense, I always want to work together with you through Craig and NCATC, because we could do a lot of really wonderful things together, which is precisely why today I wanted Adrian and I to just showcase a little bit with you about some of the successes we've done. Many of you in the country may know that AACC for the last 3+ years has been doing registered apprenticeship work, but we were so successful. And Adrian's going to click through it very quickly so that you guys can have some open Q&A time with her. But we were so successful that we decided at the end of the initiative now, just to sort of reaffirm what great opportunities there are for registered apprenticeship across the country, so that we position your communities and maybe NCATC to go after some registered apprenticeship dollars in the future. Historically, it was for white males that were in the middle of the country that were doing advanced manufacturing and construction. But by nature of the work we did with the community colleges, we vastly diversified the talent pool. That is the who came to registered apprenticeship, the where, as in we are in, California, but California and IT, as well as also the demographics. So we see more Asian Pacific Islanders or African Americans now joining registered apprenticeships. That's the beauty and the power of community colleges. So to the extent that Adrian can bring you into the registered apprenticeship fold today, if you're brand new to the topic, or give you some guidance on where you might want to take this in the future, alone or together with NCATC and AACC. We are here to talk about that. With that, I'm going to say thank you, Craig, for your longstanding support and partnership. Many of the people on the line and your industry partners are dear friends, and we're looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible in New York later this week. We're going to gather, but because we also want to prioritize you, some of you may actually travel to Washington, D.C. in the near weeks to talk about this topic yet again with us and some DOL folks. So as you wish to expand, know that I'm here to support you. Thank you so much for everything you do, Craig. I'm going to get off because of technology, and I'm going to turn this over to Adrian. Adrian, take it away and have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Jen. Travel safe. All right, I will take my screen down, and while I'm doing that and Adrian brings hers up, I want to remind everyone that you can type your questions along the way in the chat box. Please do that, and we'll queue those up at the end. We also will be sharing some links. I think Wayne Wheeler from AACC will be with us. And best of all, we're also recording this, and we'll have it available on our website and most likely through AACC in the next 48 hours as well. So you can share it or rewind and look at the best parts, mostly Adrian, of course, as you move forward in your plans and questions and answers. So without further ado, Adrian, you've been with AACC for a little over a couple years now, I think, and you came from a community college and implemented over 9 brand new apprenticeship programs, everything from HVAC to construction and IT. And I know you're a real firm believer in expanding this beyond the traditional trades, which we always want to see those grow. But boy, finance and banking and teachers, like we talked about before we got on today, anything we can do, we want to expand apprenticeship work-based learning. So I'll turn it over to you. And thank you so much, Adrian, for all that you're doing and being with us today.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that warm introduction, but actually I've only been with the AACC for about 8 months. So not a couple of years, but sometimes it seems like a couple of years, but very passionate about apprenticeship and very excited to share today. We're going to talk about managing and sustaining a registered apprenticeship program. And again, just a shout out to our leadership, Jen Worth, Senior Vice President, Workforce and Economic Development. Letitia Ford is our project monitoring specialist of apprenticeships. Rosie Gabriel is our project coordinator of apprenticeships. And Wayne Wheeler has been transitioning over to the workforce development unit and has really tremendously helped me out a great deal with coordinating a lot of the webinars, the DC meeting, and a lot of the information as it pertains to ECHA. So I want to talk about the Virtual Apprenticeship Network Toolkit. And this has been designed by AACC, and this is specifically with a project that AACC had called the ECHA Project, Expanding Community Colleges Apprenticeship. This was a $19.952 million project funded through a cooperative agreement between the Department of Labor and AACC. So it's very exciting to be able to showcase what we've done as part of that project. And one of the pieces was specifically developing this Virtual Apprenticeship Network Toolkit, which we affectionately call the VAN. It is an interactive web-based toolkit. It is found on the AACC homepage. Once you reach the homepage to AACC, if you scroll down about the middle of the page is quick links, and the quick links, you'll be able to see the direct link to the Virtual Apprenticeship Network Toolkit. It is a tremendous resource when you are designing, building, implementing, expanding, sustaining, and evaluating registered apprenticeship programming at your community college. tremendous amount of resources on the VAN toolkit, as well as some success stories from other community colleges that have been part of the ECHA project. There is also ECHA Data and some DCI outcomes that are also located under the ECHA Data on this particular project. So the Virtual Apprenticeship Network was designed with 5 themes of successful practice. It's implementing a registered apprenticeship program, effective messaging on the value of registered apprenticeship programs, managing and sustaining a registered apprenticeship program, the ECHA Data, as well as a quarterly showcase of the ECHA partner projects. So today we're going to talk about the managing and sustaining a registered apprenticeship program. And as you can see, the toolkit is a honeycomb look, and each honeycomb or hexagon does have a link that is located inside. You can click on the link, and today we're going to click on the link of managing and sustaining a registered apprenticeship program. And as you can see, there are 5 points within this section: the increasing diversity and inclusion throughout registered apprenticeship programs at community colleges, apprenticeship data and tracking requirements insight, assessing and evaluating a successful registered apprenticeship program insights, applying management systems to effectively manage a successful registered apprenticeship program, and finally talking about braiding funding for long-term success. So I'm really excited to get started. And the first one is increasing diversity and inclusion through registered apprenticeship programs at community colleges. So they have greatly changed over the last decade. Once known primarily to serve the students or apprentices in the construction trades. Registered apprenticeship programs now expand into IT, advanced manufacturing, business, finance, healthcare, agriculture, and much more. In 2019, the U.S. Department of Labor reported that 90% of all apprentices served were males, and more than 42% of apprentices were from diverse backgrounds. AACC, through the ECHA initiative, is focusing on increasing that diversity by focusing registered apprenticeship programs to be more accessible to women and minorities. Progress has been incorporated with the minority workers, but the share of women apprentices still remains low, despite the fact that 57% of community college enrollees are women, and 55% of college enrollees are from the minority populations. So other populations to consider are people with disabilities. Between the ages of 18 and 64, 37% of people with disabilities are employed. Work-based learning apprenticeship programs are suited for people with disabilities. And another untapped and undervalued group of individuals would include employees ages 50 and older and prison populations. What is less known is, on average, more than 8% of registered apprenticeship entrants each year are individuals who are currently incarcerated. AACC encourages your institution to explore these untapped populations that already attend your institution and are well suited for apprenticeship programs. Community colleges are well suited to create and implement apprenticeship programs in new occupations, giving opportunity to a broader population of students. We also share on this particular link of the increasing diversity and inclusion through registered apprenticeship programs at community colleges, several success stories. Success stories at Arapahoe Community College in Colorado, Midland Technical College in South Carolina, and the College of Southern Nevada located in Nevada. In addition to those success stories, we also have populated the site with many resources specifically working with these underserved and underrepresented populations. The second aspect is applying management systems to run a successful registered apprenticeship program. Because of the rigor of the program and the standards that are established for each registered apprenticeship program, at AACC, we highly recommend a method to track the required documentation. AACC also recommends that management systems be put into place at the colleges so they can monitor apprenticeship programs and work directly with industry on continued expansion and support of the apprentices. I'm going to list several metrics and briefly describe the metrics that are required to be tracked by the Department of Labor and tools that could be used to track many of this required information. So the first one is the demographic data system and achievement data system for apprentices. Basic data systems could be managed by an Excel spreadsheet or proprietary software. Most information can be found in your college MLS system, such as Banner or PeopleSoft. And certainly it may be an opportunity for you to work with your institutional folks in order to find out if there's additional modules that may be more beneficial when working with apprenticeships. The second item is the instructor data system. It's a central place where you can keep track of information needed at your college, such as the number of courses a faculty member is teaching, when the courses are taught, the amount paid, and if the faculty is conducting tutoring, and for that matter, even if the students are taking advantage of your tutoring services or your tutoring center. This is in addition to the room schedule system, which is very important and can really show aspects of where additional classroom space may be available during other times between the semesters and other opportunities that the college may have. Company data system, such as Excel, Salesforce, HubSpot, that can track the company or your employers, the HR contact, the accounts payable contact, the number of apprentices that are located at that employer, who is mentoring the employees or the apprentices at that particular employer, the date that you're visiting, the mentor and or apprentice, student advising, and something that has recently been brought up is a wellness check. As many of you know, many of the youth are facing lots of challenges as a result of COVID and just other things that are happening currently in society. So one of the institutions is actually engaging each apprenticeship student in a wellness check to make sure that everything is okay with them physically, mentally. If there's any outside barriers that may need some attention, certainly they can have the resources available to those apprentices. Another aspect is the program data system. Registered apprenticeship programs, when approved, critical contacts that are needed, yearly updated curriculum maps, course schedules, recruitment materials, the institute document tracking systems with date of versions or version control, and who can update the documents. Especially because with apprenticeship, there is a lot of data that should be tracked. Please make sure that you do have the secure methods in order to keep that data of who it needs to see that and who can have access to that data. The next one is a CRM system for outreach team. This is your customer relationship management tool. And this can be used both for your employers because they are your customers, as well as the apprentices because they're also your customers. So this is something that could track both the employer and the apprentice. A marketing data system. This is outreach schedule trackers. return on investment of your events. As you're holding events, especially for employers, you want to be able to see if your employers are truly engaging and converting to partners through the return on investment of tracking the marketing data. And your perception data system, that's a continuous quality improvement with surveys. And you want to be able to survey the companies, the apprentices, the instructors, as well as the mentors, because they are also a key component with apprenticeship. So the next one is apprenticeship data and tracking requirements. Data tracking and management is an integral part of any good community college registered apprenticeship program. Good data provides a wealth of information to the college and stakeholders on the efficiency and value of the program to the community, as well as it ensures the college maintains compliance with the United States Department of Labor policies and reporting requirements. Quality data is key to sustaining, marketing, and improving a registered apprenticeship program at your college. The data elements are outcomes and metrics that should be tracked for your program include from the employer and the program sponsor data. You'll need to track the employer name and contact information, the registered apprenticeship program sponsor, the registered apprenticeship occupation, the number of registered apprentices in each program, occupation, and at each employer, financial information such as the cost to the employer and the total revenue. The registered apprenticeship data that you'll need to track is the name and contact information of each registered apprentice. Which registered apprenticeship program are they active? Occupation, the demographic data, the wage and employee information, student information, and that can include your course schedules, etc. And it's critical for program monitoring and improvement. This data also should be readily available at your college for use in marketing, grant applications, accreditation, reviews, and other situations which demonstrates your success. In addition, on this particular link is also information regarding the required Department of Labor apprenticeship forms, and that can be viewed through the Virtual Apprenticeship Network Toolkit located on the AACC homepage. The next aspect is braided funding for long-term success. Like all programs, there's a cost associated with establishing a registered apprenticeship program. The costs can be incurred not only by the college, but also the community stakeholders, and certainly the employer partners that are involved with apprenticeship. Specific costs associated with registered apprenticeship program is covered in a previous section of this toolkit, and that piece is how a college and partners can address these costs requires additional detail. External funding, such as grants from public or private sources, often used for starting new registered apprenticeship initiatives, and employer partners identified at the onset may also be willing to contribute. Your college may also be prepared to cover some of the cost out of their operating budget, but frequently colleges draw on multiple sources of funding, which can be braided or blended. Blended funding occurs when funds are combined and accounted for, tracked, and reported as a single funding stream. Braided funding refers to the alignment of resources to improve the impact and efficiency for a specific purpose. It occurs when funds come from various entities and origins, and while utilized for the same overall program, are expensed, tracked, and reported separately. While blended funding opportunities requires less reporting and tracking, braided funding is more commonly seen when a college is responsible for reporting financial expenses and outcomes to multiple funders or originating entities. These entities could be the federal government, so a federal grant, a state grant, and a local nonprofit. In the case of braided funding, it's important to recognize the different requirements and responsibilities associated with each source of funding, utilize that funding accordingly, and then report all necessary documentation to each funding entity. It may not sound, while this may sound complicated, the use of these strategies demonstrates support for the program not limited to a single source and allows the leveraging of funds to ultimately go further in achieving the desired outcomes with your apprenticeship programs. Braided funding can be beneficial in improving the coordination and alignment of funding and services among your partners, reducing duplication of services and expenses, expanding capacity, engaging additional expertise, and improving the overall impacts and outcomes. Braided funding for registered apprenticeship programming. Your college should already have a clear vision for the program and the necessary costs and needs to implement the program. To engage multiple separate streams of funds to cover the costs, a budget should be designed to account for each funding stream and amount and how the funds will be utilized to meet the shared goals and strategies. Your college may braid many funding sources internally. You can also engage external partners to utilize the funding stream specific to their organization's abilities and priorities. A general process for this activity could look similar to this: a breakdown by project, by need, impact, and costs. Identify which costs the colleges will cover and brainstorm sources for these funds. Identify which costs the other partners involved will cover and brainstorm sources for the funds. Create a plan to secure funding from each source and manage the flow of money to the program. Braided funding can be very beneficial for all partners, but not always financially. Braided funding works best if you have a specific goal or use in mind and it is clear to all partners. Some organizations are better positioned to receive specific streams of funding, and some organizations are better positioned to give certain streams of funding. You must set clear expectations on sustainability of the funding sources to ensure long-term success. Sources of funding may vary. Some common sources of funding used in registered apprenticeship programming and the origin of those funds include the following. For the employers, skilled trade funds, tax incentives, employer tuition contribution, registered apprenticeship scholarships. Certainly look at the WIOA funds, Workforce Investment Opportunity Act, and those funds could include adult and dislocated worker and youth, the Adult Education and Family Literacy Act, the Employment Services, and Vocational Rehabilitation Services. Department of Education funding, such as the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education, Pell Grants, TRIO Student Service Supports, U.S. Department of Labor ETA appropriated and/or H-1B grant funding, such as the American Apprenticeship Initiative, Scaling Apprenticeships, Closing the Skill Gaps. And there are other federal funds, such as the Reemployment Eligibility Assessment and Services, the Veterans Employment and Training and GI Bill. State funding could also see tax incentives, and that is definitely a source of funding to explore, because a lot of times this will help your employer partners who are not quite sold on the idea of apprenticeship. Providing some additional tax incentives typically will be a source that is very welcome to your employer partners. Workforce and economic development funding, scholarships. And this could be scholarships that are actually located through your foundation offices. economic and development grants, foundations or other other entities, private grants from individual donors or organizations, employer and industry contributions, and then last, some other funding partnership opportunities, labor organizations, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and local nonprofits. So many opportunities for lots of funding for apprenticeship. And hopefully some of you on this call, there was the ABA grant that closed on Monday. So I do hope that many of you did apply for those apprenticeship funds that are available. The next aspect is assessing and evaluating a successful registered apprenticeship program. As with any new community college initiative of a large magnitude and complexity, building in a feedback model to assess and evaluate progress throughout the development, implementation, and maintenance of a registered apprenticeship program is crucial. Much like the design and development of a registered apprenticeship program at a community college, many of the same tools and resources mentioned in other sections may be beneficial in the continued assessment and evaluation of the program once in place. The assessment and evaluation of your college's registered apprenticeship program should not be a one-time endeavor. You're looking to be able to sustain apprenticeship. Quality programming requires continued monitoring and evaluation, as well as procedural and substantial improvements when necessary. An ongoing structured approach is needed to analyze and evaluate how the current registered apprenticeship program is performing and where improvements may be made to the program's systems, procedures, and processes to achieve better outcomes. This sort of process proactively searches for ways to be more efficient and effective, and therefore achieve better outcomes for stakeholders and participants involved. If your college currently utilizes a form of continuous quality or process improvement in decision-making and program assessment, this is a great place to start. Assessment and evaluation of registered apprenticeship programming at your college should include an integrative and systematic approach to gather and analyze both quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data used in assessments may include, but again, not limited to, labor market data, participating employer data, and participating apprenticeship employee and student data, program revenues and income, ongoing return on investment, and cost and benefit analysis, program data tracking and performance outcomes. The qualitative data used in assessments may include, but again, it's not limited to, assessment of program readiness and program inventory assessment, employer and community stakeholder communication and feedback, advisory committee feedback, and I strongly recommend that you at least explore some subject matter experts to be able to form an advisory board to help navigate as you're developing an apprenticeship program. Student and registered apprenticeship feedback, faculty, staff, and internal institution feedback, Office of the Apprenticeship or State Apprenticeship Office feedback and compliance. The assessment and evaluation of programs should occur at specific times, such as at the end of a semester or at the end of the college year. Along with an evaluation of the program itself, this type of ongoing assessment is also vital to provide the college with a system of accountability and transparency to employer and community partners, apprenticeship mentors, apprentices, and faculty and staff. And I do want to share some of the ECHA data that is part of this project. And again, as was discussed earlier, AACC entered into a cooperative agreement March the 1st of 2019, and the project was initially supposed to end February the 28th of 2022. We did receive a no-cost extension that will collect data through June the 30th of 2022. So initially, our initial goal and what we were tasked with from the Department of Labor was to serve 16,000 registered apprentices by February the 28th. As you can see, by March the 31st, we have served 19,544 apprentices over this period, with over 613 occupations that are represented in this initiative. We have about 64% new employees and 36% of incumbent workers, which is also another vital aspect to be able to tap into for community colleges to increase their enrollment. This particular initiative had 106 total community colleges, with 58 individual and 8 consortia, and those 8 consortia had multiple colleges that came together to serve as one consortia. We had 31 colleges that were the sponsoring registered apprenticeship, and then we had 31 territories and states that were represented. Guam was also part of this project, so they are therefore the territory that was represented. We had 8 national global industry partners, and there was also an advisory board made up of 54 individuals that were part of the ECHA project. And I do want to share that as of this week, we have actually gone over 20,000 apprentices served. As of this morning, we were at 20,025, and we will still be collecting data through June the 30th. So I'm very anxious and excited to see what the final number will be as part of this project. So another aspect that is found on the Virtual Apprenticeship Network tool is you can actually click on the states that are part of the ECHA project. And in this case, as you can see on your screen, it's the state of Illinois. There are 3 ECHA partners with 87 registered apprenticeships, and the occupations that they are serving: agriculture, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, hospitality, IT, and transportation, to name a few. You can click on any of the states that are represented with ECHA colleges, and you'll receive some of the same data. We also created what we refer to as a one-pager. We did one-pagers for the individual colleges, the college consortia, and then we did an individual one-pager for all of the data combined. And just to share, this is an example of the one-pager, and this is to cover the national aspect of this. So this includes all apprentices and the 613 occupations. In addition, we have the characteristics of registered apprentices. We have the industry sectors of program sponsors, the training approach of registered apprenticeships, and many other information. I would like to point out that in December of 2021 versus March the 31st of 2022, our trades percentage went down to about 63% of the total apprenticeship programs, and our other occupations went from about 21% up to about 37%. So it's really exciting to see that the numbers are increasing for the other occupations. There are many resources that are part of this virtual apprenticeship network: apprenticeship.gov, apprenticeship.gov legislation regulations guidance, quick start toolkit, building registered apprenticeship programs, a healthcare career advancement program. Harper College has an apprenticeship toolkit, connecting apprenticeship and higher education. There's 8 recommendations. And there's high quality pre-apprenticeship programs for specifically community colleges. So lots of wonderful resources that will help develop and sustain apprenticeship programs in addition to the AACC toolkit. So at this time, are there any questions that I may assist with? there's some questions in the chat. And in the chat, there are various links so that you can also click on the link, and that will take you to various aspects of the virtual apprenticeship network.
Yes, Madison, you might have joined late, but we announced that we are recording this session today. And we also recorded yesterday's implementing registered apprenticeship programs, and they will be both posted on the NCATC website, and we will share them with AACC to share as well. I'm putting the NCATC website address in the chat.
And if anyone does have additional questions and you're traveling to the AACC annual convention in New York later this week, feel free to look me up. I will be in New York starting tomorrow. And if any of you are traveling to the meeting in DC in the middle of May that Craig has coordinated for AACC, by all means, we'll have lots of opportunities to chat. We also will have the Department of Labor folks that will be also coming to visit us with the meeting in May. So I'm very excited for them to hear, what is going on in your institution? What do you need additional assistance with? How can we help support and to grow and advance apprenticeships at your institution?
We've got just about a minute left in our scheduled time. Yesterday we went over because there were more questions than we had time for, actually. Any other questions for Adrian before we depart? Well, from business where I came from, we said silence is approval, Adrian. And so you sure did share an awful lot of great best practices and data and metrics with us today. And just can't tell you how much this helps all of our networks across the nation be stronger and better, and look forward to improvement opportunities, as you clearly went over many times. I think, as Jen puts it, we are always looking for making promising practices into common practices. And I think that you've done a great job keeping the flag waving up and down the flagpole for the United States for apprenticeships and community colleges. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in DC in less than 3 weeks, I think, something like that.
Yes, coming soon.
And our work will continue to share across the nation all these best practices and move the needle further. In a couple years, maybe we are 45,000 new apprentices as well. So
that would be wonderful. Again, I appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you today. And I'm here. My contact is there on the board now. So please reach out if you have additional questions, and I'd love to chat more about apprenticeship.
Thanks everyone for attending. Keep in touch with NCATC and AACC as you move forward, and keep us updated with your progress as well. Thanks, Adrian, and thanks everyone else. Have a great rest of the week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.